everyone, my name is Tina, and welcome to my Genshin channel. I haven't been posting much these days because I'm still recovering from COVID. However, I have to talk about the recent drip marketing of Durin, Jahoda, and potentially Rerir. Even before his drip marketing, we got a little teaser posted by Genshin about the Hexen Circle, hinting at Alice as one of the witches we should see soon in nod-krai, alongside Albedo's drawing, Killy's Jumpy Dumpty, Venti's Lyre, Mona's Crest, Sucrose's Flask, Oz, who is Fischl's Night Raven, and Razor's Wolf. Some of these connections are clear, like being a children of witches or dabbling into alchemy like Sucrose, but also there are interesting ones like Razor. We cannot be sure how they all connected for now, but after Rerir's defeat, I think it's about time we will move slowly into the Hexen Circle lore and whatever Scaramouche is doing in nod-krai, likely next patch, because let's move on to Durin's drip marketing. We've already met him in the new Archon quest and we have seen some of his powers, but we can also see his weapon on this drip marketing, confirming what we all expected, him being an upcoming 5-star. He will of course be Pyro and he will have a vision, so no moon wheel, but that makes sense, him being from Mondstadt and having the Mondstadt wheel behind him as well. Now the very interesting part, because you know, I will talk about lore, his title being the Undying Fire. This is something we heard before. In all languages, this is the same as from the witch's book called The Little Witch and the Undying Fire. That book deserves its own video, which I will probably make closer to Alice's and Nico's release. But what you need to know about the ending is the Undying Fire was actually the late witch Anders' daughter, and the little witch used her faint fire, that is a reference to her stories, to light up the dying universe. Obviously, there are more connections to her, given the fact she wrote Mini Durin in Simulanka, and that's how our Durin eventually became a human. So if that's the case, him being Anders' daughter's faint light, then it would really be interesting to see how he will affect not just Tibet, but possibly other planets as well. With the newly released Milliaster Wonderland, it's also became canon how there are more planets, with Octavia, the witch who's always on the go across planets. And it also could be a hint of what's to come in the later nod-krai patches when we meet up with every other witch as well. Durin's constellation being Draco Rubedo also could kinda hint to that, it being one of the stages in alchemy's magnum opus process, the first of which being blackening, and the Latin name, I don't even try to pronounce it with my accent. But what's important, it's not really pointing to any known characters yet. The following steps being albedo, like our albedo, Citrinitas being yellowing, likely referring to gold, and finally the final step to get the Philosopher's Stone is Rubedo, the reddening. This basically connects Durin, Albedo and Rindotir, as if their connection was not obvious story-wise. But it's still interesting how the first step doesn't really have any known connections just yet. Potentially it could be some future characters, or maybe it could refer to even Subject 2, Albedo's previous iteration without his golden mark. One thing is sure, there is definitely more to this story, and while we don't get our answers yet, I think it's interesting to point out now before we venture deeper into the Hexen Circle very soon. Durin's drip marketing story talks about how our new Durin is now being more and more well known in Mondstadt, and how he and Klee were scolded by acting Grandmaster Jean, so that's good to see they are still getting along. And it even mentions how Venti is telling others this is not just a new version of the Durin story they know. No, best consider it a wholly new story, a far brighter one. Once again, this might refer to his title being the Undying Fire, and how Anders' daughter's light shines bright even after her death. His introduction was done by, of course, Fischl, to which even Oz said, "What mein Fräulein means to say is, never mind." But don't worry, I will translate it to English. Oh, scourge of the wicked Wyrm Tasrake, beast who denies destiny's yoke. She calls Durin the enemy of the evil dragon Tasrake, who was shown to be Dwalin in her character announcement many years ago. Now to be fair, Mona said that her arch-nemesis Tasrake, the wicked dragon made up of everything that opposes her and rejects her fantasies. But still, I would love if that was actually a hint of Durin and Dwalin meeting one day. And she also calls Durin a beast who defied fate, which probably just refers to how Simulanka's Mini Durin was able to understand humans, and how he eventually became our Durin. Her line of, "My left eye has pierced the weave of casualty interwoven," probably also means the same thing. However, the line about, "The newborn birthed from Rerir unto this world shall render the annihilation of 3,000 universes," is interesting because while in English it kind of sounds like Durin would destroy universes, in Japanese it kind of just means that he would like run through already perishing universes. That definitely matches the previously mentioned book better, how the Undying Flame was in the end used to light up those planets in the dying universe. But at least this is something I think will be explained more, especially now that multiple universes are canon through Octavia and the Milliaster Wonderland. Upon the descent of the final hour of divine reckoning, once more declared a forbidden name to his fated nemesis. This, while making sense in English, I have no idea what it's referring to. Might be when finally Durin meets Dwalin, or if the universe really is dying, he might have to do something to save that. Do I feel like that would be weird to have such an important character in Genshin just being Durin? No offense. Still, he might use his powers, like in the Archon quest alongside Alice, who is in nod-krai to protect Tibet's collapsing borders. It feels like we'll learn more about not just the witches, but potentially the shades as well. So all I can say is, I cannot wait for that time to come. And while that's about it for Durin, he's definitely setting up a much bigger plot about not just the Hexen Circle, but also Tibet itself. On to a little lighter topic, Jahoda was also announced, who will likely be a 4-star character because, for one, she doesn't seem to have a signature weapon, and also because she has an animal vision, not a moon wheel. While characters without moon wheels can still increase the moon sign, like for example Aino still increasing it, they still won't be able to do lunar reactions. Honestly, this kind of feels pay to win for me, especially with so many bosses and domains have buffs for lunar reactions, but I guess we just gotta feel it out. And also, to be fair, we haven't had any new Electro or Dendro 4-stars in nod-krai, so maybe they will come eventually. Still, I'm super happy she joins the playback characters because so far she has been my favorite part of the quest with her goofy expressions and kinda clumsy personality. This is exactly the topic of her drip story too, it being about her constant questioning of why Nefer chose to trust her. While she's taking care of a lot of things for the Curatorium of Secrets, she often feels her only job is to take care of Ashru, who sometimes even screws up her braids. As someone with an Ashru, I can relate, but Nefer has her full trust in Jahoda and that she will continue to grow. And when that time comes, the girl who began with nothing but herself will have to face the question, where does her path truly leads? To Nefer, it's a question interesting enough to observe. To Jahoda, it's an answer important enough to chase after. Her introduction was also done by Inefa, who, let's just say, there are people definitely making some connections between them, suggesting that because Jahoda didn't get much sleep these days, should use Aino's favorite sleep aid, hugging. Very well, I will hug you, Jahoda. I will not leave your side. And finally, I also want to just mention a post by Genshin about Rerir. This E really looks like a drip marketing, but I don't really think there is any way he could become playable, and there are absolutely no announcements about that. So I do wonder if Genshin would just do this now for all the sinners. They already got the Harbinger treatment, so if that's the case, I cannot wait for the other 4 to come out as well. But as for Rerir, what Vetronir has to say about him is very interesting, it being sin has tainted the past and fate rules the future, but his story has yet to reach its end. This is interesting for 2 things. First being that fate rules the future, that referring to the constellations and how Tibet's false sky controlling people's fates. This is something that was mentioned in the Little Witch and the Undying Fire book as well, even talking more about what the Archons could potentially be. But yeah, no, I really need to make its own separate video. For now, what matters to us is that while we have defeated Rerir and we yeeted him beyond the false sky, his story has yet to reach its end, and once again, likely false sky, Tibet's borders, etc., he will come back very soon. And that's about it for the drip marketing. I know I talked a lot about Durin and everything around him, but obviously the whole Hexen Circle is just such an interesting group, and every sign points towards this being the next big plot topic. Still, if you have any questions about him or Jahoda or even Rerir, feel free to write me a comment. I always love reading your theories, but as per usual, if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give a like, and if you want to see more content like this, then make sure to subscribe. A lot more to come with now we also having UGC. I'm planning to make a video showcasing some amazing modes, even some exclusive to the Chinese servers. Cannot wait for you guys to see that. But until then, I will see you on my Genshin channel, and see you in the next one. Bye bye!